Ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt is one of the most fascinating civilizations in human history. From the mighty pyramids to the enigmatic Sphinx, Egypt has captured the imagination of people around the world for centuries. Let's take a deep dive into the history of Egypt, from its earliest beginnings to its final day. So please, sit back, relax, close your eyes, and get into a comfortable position while I take you through a journey back in time to ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt was a civilization located in northeastern Africa along the Nile River. The Nile was the lifeblood of the civilization, providing water for agriculture, transportation, and trade. The history of ancient Egypt is divided into three main periods: the Old Kingdom, the Middle Kingdom, and the New Kingdom. The Old Kingdom is best known for its magnificent pyramids, which were built as tombs for pharaohs and their consorts. The most famous of these is the Great Pyramid of Giza, which was built during the reign of Kufu. The Old Kingdom period lasted from approximately 2686 BC to 2181 BC, and is considered to be the period of ancient Egypt's greatest architectural and artistic achievements. The Old Kingdom period saw the construction of many of Egypt's most iconic structures, including the Great Pyramid of Giza. The pyramids were built as tombs for the pharaohs and their consorts. The Old Kingdom was characterized by a highly centralized government, with the pharaohs exercising significant control over all aspects of society. The pharaohs appointed officials to oversee various aspects of government, including the military, the economy, and religious affairs. The pharaohs of the Old Kingdom were considered to be divine rulers, with their power and authority derived from the gods. The pharaohs were believed to be responsible for maintaining the Mat, the ancient Egyptian concept of order and balance. The Old Kingdom period saw the development of a highly organized and sophisticated bureaucracy, with officials responsible for overseeing the collection of taxes, the construction of public works, and the administration of justice. The Old Kingdom also saw significant developments in religion, including the development of the cult of Osiris, a god associated with the afterlife. The pharaohs were believed to be the incarnation of the god Horus, and were responsible for ensuring that the dead were properly cared for and their spirits guided to the afterlife. The Old Kingdom was also marked by significant cultural and artistic achievements, including the development of hieroglyphs, the ancient Egyptian system of writing. Artisans and craftsmen produced a wide range of works, including jewelry, pottery, and sculpture. The Old Kingdom period saw the rise of several powerful pharaohs, including Djoser, who commissioned the construction of the Step Pyramid at Saqqara, and Khufu, who commissioned the Great Pyramid of Giza. The Old Kingdom period was ultimately came to an end due to a combination of factors, including economic decline, political instability, and environmental factors such as drought and famine. Despite its eventual decline, the Old Kingdom period remains a significant period in ancient Egyptian history, and its architecture, art, and culture continue to fascinate and inspire people around the world even today. The Middle Kingdom. The Middle Kingdom period lasted from approximately 2055 BCE to 1650 BCE, and is considered to be a period of political and cultural renaissance following the upheavals of the First Intermediate Period. The Middle Kingdom saw the reunification of Egypt under the rule of the pharaohs, Thebes, who were able to establish a strong central government and extend their control over much of the Nile Valley. The pharaohs of the Middle Kingdom were renowned for their military prowess and conducted several successful campaigns to secure Egypt's borders and expand its territory. The Middle Kingdom was characterized by a period of significant cultural and artistic flourishing, with artists and craftsmen producing some of the most iconic works of Egyptian art. This period saw the development of new artistic styles, including the more naturalistic classical style of sculpture. The Middle Kingdom was also marked by several significant religious developments, including the rise of the cult of Osiris, which had a profound impact on Egyptian funerary practice. The pharaohs of the Middle Kingdom were known for their interest in public works and infrastructure, and oversaw the construction of several important buildings and projects, including temples, fortresses, and irrigation systems. It was also marked by a significant expansion of trade and commerce, with Egyptian goods such as land, papyrus, and precious metals being exchanged for goods from as far away as Syria and the eastern Mediterranean. The pharaohs of the Middle Kingdom were known for their concern and welfare of the people, and implemented a number of policies aimed at improving the lives of ordinary Egyptians, including reforms to the justice system and the establishment of hospitals and schools. The Middle Kingdom period ultimately came to an end due to a combination of factors, including economic decline, political instability, and invasion by outside forces. The period ended with the invasion and eventual conquest of Egypt by the Hyksos, a group of Semitic-speaking people from the Near East. Despite its eventual decline, the Middle Kingdom period remains a significant period in ancient Egyptian history, and its architecture, art, and culture continue to fascinate and inspire people around the world today. The New Kingdom. The New Kingdom period of Egypt spanned from around 1550 BCE to 1070 BCE, and is widely considered to be the most prosperous and powerful era of ancient Egypt. During this period, Egypt underwent significant changes in terms of political, social, and cultural structures, and was able to expand its influence both within and beyond its borders. One of the most notable developments of the Kingdom period was the establishment of the 18th dynasty, which was led by a series of pharaohs who were able to successfully unite Upper and Lower Egypt. The most famous of these pharaohs was undoubtedly Tutankhamun, whose tomb was discovered near being attacked by Howard Carter in 1922, providing valuable insights into the religious and cultural practices of the time. Another important aspect of the New Kingdom period was the expansion of Egypt's territorial holdings through military conquest. During this time, Egypt conquered and annexed various neighboring territories, including Nubia to the south and parts of Syria and Palestine to the north. These conquests brought new sources of wealth and resources into Egypt, further strengthening its position as a regional superpower. The New Kingdom period also saw a significant advancement in art and architecture, with the construction of monumental buildings such as the temples of Karnak and Luxor, and the creation of exquisite works of art such as the famous bust of Nefertiti. Additionally, the New Kingdom period was marked by the rise of new religious cults centered around the god Amun, which would go on to become one of the most important cults in ancient Egypt. Despite its many achievements, the New Kingdom period was not without its challenges. Internal political strife and external threats from foreign powers led to a period of instability. The country was ultimately weakened by a combination of economic decline, environmental factors such as drought and famine, and invasions by outside forces. Nevertheless, the legacy of the New Kingdom period remains one of even enduring and impressive achievement, and its impact can still be felt in the country's cultural and historical heritage even today. Ancient Egyptian civilization began around 3100 BCE and lasted for over 3,000 years, making one of the longest-lasting civilizations in human history. Ancient Egyptians developed a system of writing known as hieroglyphics, which used pictures to represent words and sound. This system was used for over 3,500 years and was only deciphered in the 19th century with the discovery of the Rosetta Stone. More on that later. The Egyptians believed in an afterlife and developed elaborate funerary practices to ensure that the deceased would have everything they needed in the next world. This included the construction of tombs and the inclusion of grave goods such as food, clothing, and jewelry. The pharaohs were the rulers of ancient Egypt and were believed to be divine. They were responsible for maintaining the cosmic order of the universe, and were believed to have the power to control the flooding of the Nile. The Egyptians were skilled in many areas, including architecture, engineering, medicine, and mathematics. They built some of the most impressive structures in the world, such as the pyramids, and developed techniques for mummification and surgery. Ancient Egypt was a polytheistic society, and the Egyptians worshipped a wide variety of gods and goddesses. Some of the most important deities included Ra, the sun god, Osiris, the god of the afterlife, and Isis, the goddess of magic and fertility. But more on that later too. Ancient Egyptians were known for their art, which was often symbolic and heavily influenced by religion. They created sculptures, paintings, and reliefs that depicted gods, pharaohs, and everyday life. The Rosetta Stone was discovered in 1799 and was a crucial key to understanding ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. The stone contained a decree issued by King Ptolemy V in 196 BC in 3 scripts: Greek, hieroglyphics, and Demotic, a simplified script used for everyday life. The end of ancient Egypt was marked by the invasion of foreign powers, including Persians, Greeks, and Romans. The Romans conquered Egypt in 3rd BCE, and it became a province of the empire. Despite the decline of ancient Egypt, its legacy had endured through the centuries, and its influence can still be seen in architecture around the world. The word pharaoh comes from the Egyptian word per-ah, which means great house or palace. The pharaohs were considered to be divine beings with the power to control forces of nature and maintain the cosmic order of the universe. The pharaohs were the rulers of ancient Egypt, and their authority was absolute. They were responsible for maintaining law and order, overseeing the economy, and leading the army in times of war. The pharaohs were often depicted wearing a distinctive headdress known as the nemes, which has a striped headcloth with a cobra on the front. The pharaohs had a complex system of bureaucracy and officials who assisted them in governing the country. These officials included the vizier, who was the pharaoh's chief advisor, and the high priest, who was responsible for overseeing religious affairs. The pharaohs were often buried in elaborate tombs, such as the pyramids, which were designed to protect their bodies and ensure their safe passage to the afterlife. These tombs were filled with valuable objects and treasures, which were believed to accompany the pharaohs in the afterlife. The pharaohs engaged in many building projects such as temples, palaces, and irrigation systems. They were also responsible for the construction of pyramids and temples, which were massive structures built as tombs for the pharaohs. The pharaohs were often depicted in art and literature as heroic figures, who defeated enemies and brought prosperity to their people. Some of the most famous pharaohs include Tutankhamun, Hatshepsut, and Ramses II. The pharaohs were also responsible for overseeing religious rituals and ceremonies, which were believed to maintain the cosmic order of the universe. These rituals included offerings to the gods, processions, and festivals. The pharaohs were considered to be intermediaries between the gods and the people, and their rule was seen as essential for the well-being of the country. Their authority was rarely challenged, and they were regarded as powerful symbols of stability in ancient Egypt. Ancient Egyptian art was heavily influenced by religion and the belief in an afterlife. Many works of art were created to accompany the dead into the afterlife or to serve as offerings to the gods. Art was also characterized by a high degree of stylization, with figures depicted in a highly formalized and an idealized manner. For example, human figures were typically shown with heads and legs in profile, but with the torso facing forward. One of the most important forms of ancient Egyptian art was funerary art, which included tomb painting, relief, and sculpture. These works of art were intended to help the deceased on their journey to the afterlife, and depicted scenes of everyday life, as well as religious and mythological themes. The ancient Egyptians also created impressive works of sculpture, including colossal statues of pharaohs and gods, as well as smaller works, such as amulets and figurines. Many of these works were carved from stone or wood, but some were also cast in bronze or other metals. Painting was another important form of ancient Egyptian art, and many works survive today in the form of tomb paintings and wall reliefs. These paintings depicted a wide variety of subjects, including scenes of daily life, religious ceremonies, and mythological tales. Egyptian art also included the creation of jewelry, which was often highly ornate and symbolic. Many pieces of jewelry were created using precious metals and gemstones, and were intended to serve as amulets or talismans. The colors used in Egyptian art were often symbolic, with red representing life, blue representing the heavens, and green representing fertility and regeneration. Gold was also used frequently in Egyptian art, representing the eternal and divine. Hieroglyphics, the Egyptian system of writing, was often used in conjunction with art, with inscriptions and texts frequently included in reliefs and other works of art. Ancient Egyptian art had a lasting influence on the art of later civilizations, including ancient Greece and Rome, as well as part of the Islamic world. Some of the most famous examples of ancient Egyptian art include the Great Sphinx, bust of Nefertiti, and the tomb paintings in the Valley of the Kings. The Book of the Dead. The Book of the Dead is an ancient funerary text that was used to guide the deceased through the afterlife. The Book of the Dead was written on papyrus scroll and was placed in the tombs of the deceased along with other funerary goods. It contained a collection of spells and incantations designed to help the deceased navigate the dangers of the afterlife and achieve eternal life in the field of reeds, a paradise reserved for the righteous dead. The Book of the Dead was not a single, unified text, but rather a collection of spells and incantations that varied depending on the individual's social status and personal beliefs. The spells and incantations contained in the Book of the Dead were believed to have been written by the gods themselves and were intended to protect the deceased from evil spirits and other dangers they might encounter in the afterlife. Spells and incantations of the Book of the Dead cover a wide range of topics, including instructions for passing through the various gates and portals of the underworld, before, and rituals for achieving rebirth and eternal life. The Book of the Dead was primarily used by members of its elite, but versions of the text were also produced for members of the middle and lower classes. The Book of the Dead was not the only funerary text used by the ancient Egyptians, but is one of the most well-known and widely studied today. The spells and incantations contained within were often accompanied by illustrations depicting scenes from the afterlife, such as the weighing of the heart ceremony, in which the deceased's heart was weighed against the feather of truth to determine their worthiness for eternal life. The book was not used exclusively in the Pharaonic period, but continued to be produced and used by later Egyptian cultures, including the Ptolemaic and Roman periods. Today, the Book of the Dead is considered one of the most important sources of information about Egyptian religion and funerary practice, and is studied by scholars and enthusiasts around the world. Here are some other examples of different types of Egyptian texts. Hieroglyphics are the most well-known form of ancient Egyptian writing. They are complex symbols and images used by scribes to write formal texts, such as religious and legal documents, and inscriptions on temples and tombs. Demotic script. This was a cursive script used for everyday documents, such as letters, contracts, and administrative texts. It was simpler and easier to write than hieroglyphics, and was used extensively during the Ptolemaic period. Coptic language. Coptic was a form of Egyptian written with the Greek alphabet, and was used by Egyptian Christians from the 2nd to 17th century CE. Many important Christian texts, including the Nag Hammadi Library, were written in Coptic. The coffin texts. The coffin texts were funerary spells and incantations that were inscribed on coffins during the Middle Kingdom. They were intended to guide the deceased through the afterlife and to protect them from harm. The pyramid text. The pyramid texts are a collection of spells and incantations inscribed on the walls of Pharaoh's pyramid during the Old Kingdom. Like the coffin texts, they were intended to help the deceased navigate the afterlife and achieve eternal life. The Turin King's List. The Turin King's List is an ancient Egyptian document that lists the names of pharaohs who ruled Egypt from the earliest times to the end of the New Kingdom. It provides important information of the history of ancient Egypt and the succession of its rulers. The Amarna Letters. The Amarna Letters are a collection of diplomatic correspondence between the pharaohs of Egypt and other rulers of the Near East during the late 14th century BC. They provide important information about the political and economic relationships between the different states and the region. These are just a few examples of the many types of Egyptian texts that have survived to the present day. They provide a valuable window into the language, culture, and history of one of the world's most ancient and fascinating civilizations. In ancient Egypt, there were also several important jobs and professions that were essential to the functioning of the society. Here are some examples. The Pharaoh. The Pharaoh was the king of Egypt and was considered to be God on earth. The Pharaoh had absolute power and was responsible for governing the country and maintaining order. The Vizier. The Vizier was the chief minister, second in command to the Pharaoh. The Vizier was responsible for overseeing the administration of the country and ensuring that laws were being enforced. Priests. Priests played an important role in ancient Egyptian society, as they were responsible for performing religious ceremonies and maintaining the temples. They were also responsible for making offerings to the gods and performing rituals to ensure the well-being of the people. Scribes. Scribes were highly educated individuals who were responsible for writing and keeping records. They recorded everything from the daily activities of the pharaoh to the transactions of everyday life, Soldiers. Soldiers played an important role in maintaining the security of ancient Egypt. They were responsible for defending the country against foreign invaders and maintaining order within the country. Farmers. Farmers were the backbone of ancient Egyptian society, as they were responsible for growing the crops that fed the people. They worked the land and produced the food that sustained the entire population. Craftsmen. Craftsmen were skilled workers responsible for producing goods such as pottery, jewelry, and textiles. They used a variety of materials, including stone, metal, and wood, to create objects that were functional and beautiful. These are just a few examples of the many important jobs and professions in ancient Egypt, each playing a vital role in maintaining the society and ensuring its prosperity. Slavery. Slavery was a part of ancient Egyptian culture, but the practice varied over time and was not as pervasive as in other ancient civilizations. Here are some of the facts about slavery in ancient Egypt that you may not know. Slavery was not based on race, unlike in other societies. Slavery in ancient Egypt was not based on race or ethnicity. People could become slaves through various means, including being captured in a home, being born to slave parents, or being sold into slavery as a result of a debt or criminal activity. Slaves were not a large portion of the population. While slavery existed in ancient Egypt, it was not as pervasive as in other societies such as Rome or Greece. Slaves made up a small portion of the population, and their labor was primarily used for domestic work or to support the pharaoh and other elites. Slaves could earn their freedom through various means, such as serving their masters faithfully or through military service. Slaves in ancient Egypt had some legal rights, including the right to own property and the right to seek legal redress for mistreatment. Slavery was abolished in ancient Egypt during the New Kingdom period. Slavery began to decline, and eventually it was abolished altogether. This was likely due to the changes in economic and social structure of ancient Egyptian society. Beliefs. Ancient Egyptian religion was a complex system of beliefs and practices that played a central role in the society and culture of ancient Egypt. Here are some of the key aspects of Egyptian religion. Polytheistic beliefs. Ancient Egyptians believed in many gods and goddesses, each with their own areas of influence and responsibility. They believed that the gods controlled every aspect of life, fertility of the land to the outcome of battle. Ancient Egyptians believed in an afterlife, and they believed that the deceased could continue to interact with the living world, offerings and rituals. The most well-known example of this is the Book of the Dead. Religious rituals. Ancient Egyptians had a complex system of religious rituals, including daily offerings, temple festivals, and grand processions. These rituals were designed to honor the gods and ensure their favor, as well as maintain the order and balance of the universe. Cult of the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh was considered a god on earth and was the high priest of the entire country. The Pharaoh was responsible for maintaining the relationship between the god and the people, and many religious rituals were performed on the Pharaoh's behalf. Ancient Egyptian religion emphasized the importance of divine kingship, which held that the Pharaoh was not just a political ruler, but also a representative of the gods on earth. This belief helped to legitimize the Pharaoh's power and reinforce the stability of Egyptian society. Ancient Egyptians believed in many gods and goddesses, each with their own areas of influence and responsibility. Here are some of the most important gods and goddesses in the ancient Egyptian religion. Ra was the god of the sun and was one of the most important gods in ancient Egyptian religion. He was often depicted as a falcon, or as a man with the head of a falcon. Osiris was the god of the afterlife and the ruler of the underworld. He was also associated with fertility and agriculture. He was often depicted as a mummified figure holding a crook and a flail with green skin. Isis was the goddess of fertility, motherhood, and magic. She was often depicted with cow horns on her head and a sun disk between them. Horus was the god of the sky and was associated with chemistry. He was often depicted as a falcon or as a man with the head of a falcon. Anubis was the god of mummification and the protector of the dead. He was often depicted as a man with the head of a jackal. Thoth was the god of wisdom, writing, and magic. He was often depicted as a man with the head of an ibis. Hathor was the goddess of love, beauty, and joy. She was often depicted as a cow or as a woman with cow horns on her head. Set was the god of chaos in the desert. He was often depicted as a man with the head of an unknown animal. Amun was the king of the gods and was associated with creation and fertility. He was often depicted as a man with two plumes on his head. Bastet was the goddess of cats, fertility, and childbirth. She was often depicted as a woman with the head of a cat. Ptah was the god of craftsmen and creation. He was often depicted as a man with a shaven head and a beard. Sobek was the god of the Nile River and was associated with fertility and a crocodile. He was often depicted as a man with the head of a crocodile. Sekhmet was the goddess of war and destruction. She was often depicted as a woman with the head of a lion. Nefertim was the god of beauty and perfume. He was often depicted as a young man with a lotus flower on his head. Ma'at was the goddess of truth, justice, and order. She was often depicted as a woman with an ostrich feather on her head. Each of these gods and goddesses played an important role in the ancient Egyptian religion and had their own unique story and attributes. The Egyptian pantheon was vast and complex, and each god or goddess held a special place in the hearts and minds of the ancient Egyptians. Pyramids are one of the most iconic and enduring symbols of ancient Egypt, and they were constructed during the Old and Middle Kingdom periods. The pyramids were built as tombs for the pharaohs and their consorts. The pharaohs believed that they would continue to rule in the afterlife, and their bodies needed to be preserved and protected for eternity. The construction of the pyramids was a massive undertaking that required the labor of thousands of workers. The basic design of the pyramid consisted of a square base and 4 triangular sides that had a point at the top. The largest and most well-known pyramid is the Pyramid of Giza, which stands 146 meters tall. The pyramids were constructed using lime blocks, which were quarried from nearby sources down the Nile River, such as Aswan. The blocks were then transported to the building site and carved to the necessary size and shape using copper tools. The labor force used to build the pyramids consisted of skilled craftsmen and laborers who were conscripted to work on the project for a certain period of time. They were provided with food, shelter, and medical care, and were paid in goods such as beer and bread. The construction of the pyramids required advanced engineering techniques, including the use of ramps to transport the heavy blocks to the high levels of the pyramid. The workers also used a system of pulley and levers to lift the blocks into place. The pyramids were not only tombs for the pharaoh, but they were also of a religious symbol that represented the pharaoh's power and authority. The pyramid shape was associated with the rays of the sun and the pharaoh's divine status. The discovery of the Rosetta Stone. The Rosetta Stone is a large inscribed stone that played a significant role in deciphering hieroglyphs, the writing system used in ancient Egypt. The Rosetta Stone was discovered in 1799 by a French soldier during the French campaign during the Napoleonic Wars of Egypt. It was found in the town of Rosetta, now called Rashid, in the Nile Delta region. Inscription. The stone is a black basalt slab that measures about 114 centimeters high, 72 centimeters wide, and 28 centimeters thick. It contains a decree issued by King Ptolemy V in 196 BCE, written in 3 scripts: Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphs. The Rosetta Stone was important because it contained the same text in 3 different scripts, which allowed scholars to compare and decipher the hieroglyphic script. The Greek script was already understood, so it provided the key to deciphering the hieroglyphs. The Rosetta Stone was deciphered by French scholar Jean-François Champollion in 1822 after years of work. He used his knowledge of Coptic, the late form of Egyptian language, and compared the hieroglyphs to the Greek text on the stone to work out the meaning of the hieroglyphs. The current location of the Rosetta Stone is housed in the British Museum in London, where it has been on display since 1802. The Great Sphinx. The Great Sphinx was most likely built during the reign of Pharaoh Khafre, who ruled during the Old Kingdom period of ancient Egypt. It was constructed out of limestone blocks and stands about 20 meters tall and 73 meters long. The Great Sphinx was likely built as a guardian statue for the adjacent pyramid of Khafre. It was also believed to have religious significance and was associated with the sun god Ra. Over the centuries, the Sphinx has suffered damage from natural weathering, human intervention. In the 14th century CE, the nose of the Sphinx was reportedly broken off by a cannonball fired by Ottoman soldiers. In the 20th century, restoration work was done to stabilize the statue and repair the damage. The Sphinx is considered a symbol of strength and wisdom and is associated with the god Horus. The statue's human head and lion's body are believed to represent the pharaoh's divine status and his ability to protect his kingdom. Despite its fame, the Great Sphinx remains shrouded in mystery. Its exact purpose and construction techniques are still debated by scholars, and there are many theories about the hidden chambers and tunnels beneath the statue. Egyptian archaeology. Egyptian archaeology is the study of ancient Egypt through the recovery and analysis of artifacts and other physical remains. Egypt is one of the most studied civilizations in the world due to its long and rich history. Its art, architecture, and religious practices have inspired people for centuries. Archaeological excavations have contributed significantly to our understanding of ancient Egypt and its culture. Archaeological work in Egypt began in the 19th century with the discovery of the Rosetta Stone. Early archaeologists focused on the recovery of artifacts and treasures, often without proper documentation. Modern archaeology in Egypt is more focused on scientific excavation and analysis, with an emphasis on preserving the cultural heritage of the country. Archaeological discoveries in Egypt have been numerous and wide-ranging. They include the pyramids of Giza, the Valley of the Kings, the Temple of Karnak, the Sphinx, and many other monumental structures. Artifacts such as pottery, jewelry, textiles provide insight into the daily lives of ancient Egyptians. The discovery of the tomb of Tutankhamun in 1922 was a major archaeological event that captured the world's attention. Archaeological techniques used in Egypt include excavation, mapping, and documentation of sites and artifacts. Non-invasive techniques such as ground-penetrating radar, LiDAR, and satellite imaging have also been used to locate and study buried objects and structures. Conservation and restoration work is also an important part of preserving Egypt's cultural heritage. Archaeology in Egypt faces numerous challenges, including political instability, looting, and damage from tourism. In recent years, the Egyptian government has taken steps to protect and to promote its cultural heritage, but more work needs to be done to ensure the preservation of Egypt's archaeological treasures for future generations. Egyptian astronomy. Egyptian astronomy is the study of stars, planets, and other celestial bodies by the ancient Egyptians. Astronomy was an important part of the ancient Egyptian culture and religion. The stars and planets were believed to have divine significance and were used to predict the future and guide religious ceremonies. The ancient Egyptians made extensive observations of the sky, developed a sophisticated system of star charts and calendars. They tracked the movements of the stars, planets, and the phases of the moon. They used this information to create a calendar that aligned with the agricultural cycle. The Egyptians developed their own system of constellations, which included recognizable figures such as Orion and the Big Dipper. They also named some of the brightest stars after their gods and goddesses. Astronomy played a key role in the design and construction of many Egyptian temples and pyramids. Structures were often aligned with specific celestial bodies, and the positioning of certain features within the building was used to mark astronomical events, such as solstices and equinoxes. The ancient Egyptians made a significant contribution to the field of astronomy, and their knowledge and techniques influenced later civilizations, such as the Greeks and Romans. Some of the astronomical knowledge that originated in Egypt was preserved in Arabic translations during the Islamic Golden Age, and was eventually transmitted to Europe during the Renaissance. History of food in Egypt. Food played an important role in the history of Egypt. Ancient Egyptians were some of the first people to develop a complex system of agriculture. They cultivated crops such as wheat, barley, flax, and raised domesticated animals such as cows, sheep, and pigs. Bread was the staple food of ancient Egyptians, and it was made from wheat or barley. The bread was often flavored with herbs or honey and was eaten with vegetables, fruit, and meat. Beer was also an important part of the diet, and it was made from fermented barley or bread. Food played an important role in fixing festivals and religious ceremonies. Special feasts were prepared for festivals honoring the gods, and offerings of food and drink were left at the temples. Egypt was an important center of trade in the ancient world, and food items such as wine, olive oil, and spices were imported from other regions. Egypt also exported goods such as grain, papyrus, and linen. Egyptian food and culinary techniques have influenced many cultures throughout history. For example, the Greeks were introduced to Egyptian cuisine through trade, and later incorporated Egyptian spices and cooking techniques into their cuisine. Modern Egyptian cuisine has been influenced by the country's long history and its diverse cultural heritage. Dishes such as koshari, a combination of rice, lentils, and pasta, and Egyptian falafel are popular in Egypt and in other parts of the world. Cosmetics also played an important role in ancient Egypt, both for their aesthetic value and their religious and symbolic significance. Cosmetics have been used in Egypt for thousands of years, dating back to the pre-dynastic period. The ancient Egyptians used cosmetics not only for beautification purposes, but also for the religious and ceremonial purposes. The ancient Egyptians used a variety of natural ingredients to make their cosmetics, including lead, copper, henna, charcoal, and various plant extracts. They also used animal products, such as beeswax and animal fat. Cosmetics in ancient Egypt were more than just beauty products. They were also used for religious and symbolic purposes. For example, eye makeup, kohl, was believed to protect the eyes from the sun and evil spirits. It was also used to symbolize the god Horus. The application of cosmetics in ancient Egypt was a complex and time-consuming process. Women and men would apply various ointments, oils, and powders to their faces and bodies, using tools such as ivory or wooden applicators. Cosmetics were used by both men and women in ancient Egypt, and were worn by people of all social classes. They were used not only for personal adornment, but also for protection from the sun and other environmental factors. The use in cosmetics in ancient Egypt has had a long-lasting impact on the modern world. Many of the ingredients and techniques used by the ancient Egyptians are still used in modern cosmetics and skincare products. Egyptian trade. Egypt was an important center of trade in the ancient world. The Nile River provided a natural transportation route that allowed goods to be moved up and down the river, connecting different regions of Egypt and facilitating trade with neighboring countries. One of the most important commodities traded by the ancient Egyptians was grain, particularly wheat and barley. Egypt's fertile soil and reliable irrigation systems allowed it to produce large quantities of grain, which was then sold or traded to other countries. Other important Egyptian exports included gold, precious stones, linen, papyrus, and spices such as cinnamon, cassia, and myrrh. These goods were highly prized in the ancient world and were traded with countries as far away as India, China, and Rome. In return, Egypt imported a variety of goods from other countries, including exotic animals, ivory, ebony, incense, and other luxury items. Egypt also relied on the import of raw materials such as timber and copper, which were not readily available in the country. Trade was facilitated by the use of ships, donkeys, and camels to transport goods across land and water. Ancient Egyptians were skilled shipbuilders and used their ships to navigate the Nile River and the Mediterranean Sea. They also built caravanserai, or roadside inns, to provide lodging and shelter for merchants and their animals. Overall, trade was a vital part of the ancient Egyptian economy, allowing the country to prosper and maintain its position as a dominant power in the ancient world. The smells in the ancient Egyptian markets. The markets of ancient Egypt were full of smells, both pleasant and unpleasant. Here are some of the smells that one might have encountered in an Egyptian market. Spices. Egypt was a major center of trade in the ancient world, and spices were one of the most popular commodities. The markets would have been full of fragrant smells of spices such as cinnamon, cumin, coriander, and saffron. Perfumes. Perfumes and fragrances were also popular in ancient Egypt and would have been sold in the market. Perfumes were made from natural ingredients such as flowers, herbs, and resin, and would have filled the air with their sweet scents. Incense. Incense was an important part of Egyptian religious and ceremonial practices and would have been sold in the markets. The fragrant smoke of burning incense would have filled the air with a variety of scents, including frankincense, myrrh, and cedar wood. Food. Markets would have been full of smells of food, both fresh and cooked. The aroma of roasting meat and baking bread would have been mixed with the scent of fresh fruits and vegetables. Animals. Livestock such as cows, sheep, and goats would have been sold in the markets, and their presence would have certainly added to the smells of the market. The smell of animal waste and manure would have also been present, although unpleasant. Perfume oils. Merchants in the market would have sold perfume oils that were used for personal hygiene and grooming. These oils would have been made from natural ingredients such as flowers, herbs, and spices, and would have added to the fragrant smells of the market. Egypt was home to many important cities throughout its history, some of which played a crucial role in shaping the country's culture, politics, and economy. Here are some of the most important Egyptian cities. Memphis. Memphis was the capital of ancient Egypt during the Old Kingdom period and was an important center of trade and religion. The city was home to many temples and monuments, including the Great Sphinx and the Pyramid of Djoser. Thebes, also known as Luxor, was the capital of Egypt during the New Kingdom period. The city was known for its grand temples and palaces, including the Temple of Karnak and the Valley of the Kings. Alexandria was founded by Alexander the Great in 331 BC. Alexandria became an important center of culture and trade in the Mediterranean region. The city was also known for its library, which was one of the largest and most important in the ancient world. Avaris was the capital of the Hyksos, a foreign ruling dynasty that dominated Egypt during the Second Intermediate period. The city was an important center of trade and technology, and its inhabitants introduced new military tactics and weapons to the Egyptians. Heliopolis was also known as On, was an important religious center in ancient Egypt. The city was the home of the Temple of Ra, the sun god, and was believed to be the place where the world was created. Elephantine. Elephantine was a strategic city located on an island in the Nile River near the border with Egypt. The city was an important trading post that was known for its temples and fortifications. These are just a few of the many important cities that existed in ancient Egypt. Each city had its own unique history and cultural significance, and played a crucial role in shaping the country's rich and complex legacy. The Palermo Stone. The Palermo Stone is one of the most important historical artifacts from ancient Egypt, dating back to the 25th century BC. It is a large piece of black basalt stone that is inscribed with hieroglyphics on both sides. It was named after the Italian city of Palermo, where it is currently housed in the Palermo Archaeological Museum. The Palermo Stone is divided into several sections that record important events in the history of ancient Egypt, including the reign of kings, religious festivals, and natural disasters. It is considered to be a valuable source of information about the early dynastic period of ancient Egypt, which is the period that preceded the Old Kingdom. The hieroglyphic inscriptions on the Palermo Stone are written in columns and contain important information about the organization of the Egyptian state, including the establishment of the Pharaonic dynasty, the rise of the priesthood, and the development of the legal system. The stone also provides detailed information about the economy and society of ancient Egypt, including the production of food, clothing, and other goods, as well as the social structure of the Egyptian state. The Egyptian Kings List. The Egyptian Kings List, also known as the Kings List, is an ancient document that lists the names of pharaohs and kings who ruled over ancient Egypt from the pre-dynastic period up until the end of the New Kingdom. The earliest versions of the Kings List date back to the 19th dynasty of ancient Egypt and were inscribed on temple walls and other monuments. Later versions of the Kings List were compiled on papyrus and other materials and were often used as a reference by scribes and historians. The Kings List is divided into several sections, with each section listing the name of the kings who ruled over a particular period of Egyptian history. The earliest section of the Kings List covers the pre-dynastic period, which is the period before the rise of the pharaoh, and lists the names of semi-legendary kings who ruled over Upper and Lower Egypt. The following section of the Kings List cover the Old Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, and New Kingdom periods of Egyptian history, and provide provide detailed information about the reigns of individual pharaohs, including their names, titles, and important accomplishments. Overall, the King's List is an important historical document that provides valuable information about the rulers of ancient Egypt and is an important resource for historians and scholars studying the ancient world. The Valley of the Kings. The Valley of the Kings is a valley located on the west bank of the Nile River in Egypt, across from the modern city of Luxor. It is one of the most famous and important archaeological sites in the world, and is known for the tombs of pharaohs and powerful nobles that were built there during the New Kingdom period of ancient Egypt. The Valley of the Kings was chosen as the site for royal tombs because it was believed to be a sacred location and was also protected by the surrounding mountains. The first tomb to be built in the Valley of the Kings was that of Pharaoh Thutmose I, who ruled in the 18th dynasty. Over the next 500 years, pharaohs and powerful nobles continued to build tombs in the valley, with over 60 tombs being discovered to date. The tombs in the Valley of the King were built to protect the pharaoh's bodies and possessions in the afterlife, and were often filled with treasures and valuable objects. The most famous tomb in the valley is that of Tutankhamun, which was discovered in 1922 by British archaeologist Howard Carter. The tomb contained a wealth of treasure, including a famous gold mask that is now one of the most recognizable symbols of ancient Egypt. Today, the Valley of the Kings is a popular tourist destination and continues to be an important site for archaeological research. However, the site is also threatened by a variety of factors, including erosion and tourism, and there are ongoing efforts to preserve and protect the tombs for future generations. Warfare. Warfare was a significant aspect of ancient Egyptian society, as conflict between neighboring kingdoms and foreign invasions were common throughout Egypt's long history. The ancient Egyptians had a strong military tradition, and their armies were among the most powerful in the ancient world. The earliest evidence of warfare in ancient Egypt dates back to the pre-dynastic period, around 4000 BCE, when small tribes fought each other for resources and territory. As Egypt became more centralized and powerful, the conflicts became more organized and large-scale. Ancient Egyptians fought their wars using a variety of weapons, including bows and arrows, spears, swords, and axes. One of the most famous military campaigns in ancient Egyptian history was the conquest of Nubia during the New Kingdom period. The Egyptian army, led by the pharaohs like Thutmose III and Ramses II, marched south along the Nile River and established a series of fortresses and garrisons to control territory. The ancient Egyptians also fought several wars against foreign powers, including the Hyksos, the Hittites, and the Assyrians. These conflicts often involved complex political, diplomatic maneuvers, as well as military tactics. Despite the military might, the ancient Egyptians also valued diplomacy and often negotiated treaties with their enemies to avoid prolonged conflicts. Additionally, the Egyptians were known for their defensive architecture, such as fortresses and city walls, which helped protect them against foreign invasions. Overall, warfare was an important part of ancient Egypt's society, and the military played a significant role in the history and culture of this ancient civilization. In conclusion, the ancient civilization of Egypt was one of the most remarkable and enduring in human history. From the towering pyramids to the magnificent temples, the elaborate hieroglyphic writing system, and fascinating mythology, the Egyptians left us behind an impressive legacy that continues to captivate and inspire us today. We have learned about the various aspects of ancient Egyptian culture, including their religion, art, architecture, and daily life. We have also explored the achievements of great pharaohs such as Ramses II and Tutankhamun, and their contributions to the development of this remarkable civilization. Despite facing many challenges over the centuries, such as foreign invasions and periods of political instability, the Egyptians managed to thrive and prosper for thousands of years. Their legacy has left an indelible mark on the world and continues to be studied and admired by people around the globe. Overall, the story of ancient Egypt is a fascinating one that serves as a testament to the ingenuity, creativity, and resilience of the human spirit. Through the discoveries and insights gained from these peoples, we can continue to appreciate and honor this remarkable civilization for generations to come. We have come to the end of our adventure. I hope that you learned a thing or two throughout our journey. You may now close your eyes and fall asleep. That is all for now. Until our next story.